You've been hurt, not just by one night or a fight, but by her disrespect, her words, her betrayal. You started questioning yourself. Was I not enough? Did I fail somewhere? Did I deserve this? You replay every text she sent, every excuse she made, every lie she whispered. You feel rage, confusion, shame. That's where stoic strength comes in. Not to numb you, but to sharpen you, to turn your wounds into iron. This video won't coddle you. It will challenge you. It will teach you exact steps to turn your suffering into a weapon, to walk from that relationship elevated, not broken. The lessons here will change your relationships, your self-worth, your entire life. If you value your time, listen with iron focus. Before I go deeper, comment untouchable, because that will be your reality after watching this video. Number 1. Stop explaining yourself. You sit there overthinking every word you said to her, replaying conversations in your head, wondering if you could have explained things better, if you were too harsh, too cold, too distant, too needy. But you miss the brutal truth. No explanation would have saved you, because she had already decided to disrespect you the moment she knew you were still trying to prove your worth. The moment you begin to explain yourself to a woman who already sees you as weak, you lose the one thing she can't fake desire for, your strength. And let's not sugarcoat it. When a woman hurts you, cheats on you, manipulates you, ghosts you, disrespects you publicly or silently, withdraws emotionally while keeping you around for convenience, she's not confused. She's calculated, and the more you explain, the more she sees you as a man who lacks direction and needs her permission to feel justified. It's not just about the words, it's about energy. Every time you try to clarify why you said something, why you reacted that way, why you feel hurt, you're indirectly asking her for validation, asking her to approve your emotional reaction, and she won't. Not because it's invalid, but because your need for her agreement tells her you've lost control. Control of your emotions, your boundaries, your identity. You stop being a man and become a project, and she doesn't fall in love with projects. She tolerates them until she finds a man she can't manipulate. And if you think she's going to respect you after you've bled your truth out to her, while she sits emotionless, watching your breakdown like a bored viewer in a theater, think again. Every text you send trying to explain yourself after an argument, every call where you try to clarify your position, every apology you give to smooth things over, even when you know you were right, just lowers your value. You think you're building a bridge, but you're digging a grave, not just for the relationship, but for your self-respect. And deep down, you know it. You feel that sting in your gut when she reads your message and doesn't reply, when she hears your voice shake as you try to get through to her, and she gives you nothing but cold, rehearsed silence. That's not confusion, that's control. And the men who escape that trap are not the ones who get better at talking. They're the ones who learn to talk less, to say less, to walk away when they're being misunderstood on purpose. You don't argue with someone who's made it their mission to not understand you. You don't explain yourself to someone who's weaponized confusion as a tool to exhaust you. You don't hand over your inner world to someone who's already made up their mind to leave it. If she cared, she'd listen. If she respected you, she wouldn't need paragraphs. Your presence would be enough. So from now on, kill the urge to explain. Let your actions say what your voice doesn't. Let your absence become your language. Let your progress scream where your words once begged. And this isn't just about women. It's about every area of your life. Stop over-explaining at work. Stop over-justifying your decisions to people who don't understand your mission. If they can't see your value in silence, they don't deserve a front-row seat to your future. Practice this with discipline. When your ex tries to bait you into drama, you don't respond. When she accuses you of changing, you say nothing, because she's right. You've changed. You're not explaining anymore. You're not defending anymore. You've walked out of the courtroom and stopped playing defendant in a trial where she's already decided you're guilty. Now you're free. And this freedom is cold, yes, but it's clean. You don't owe clarity to chaos. You don't owe closure to betrayal. And you certainly don't owe explanations to someone who knew exactly what they were doing when they hurt you. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself progress. You owe yourself transformation. From now on, make silence your signature. Make clarity your internal compass, not a performance for others. Make dignity your default. Don't scream to be heard. Stand to be seen. Don't chase understanding. Build a life that speaks for itself. When you stop explaining, you stop bleeding for people who enjoy watching you die slowly. And you start living with such unshakable intention that those who misunderstood you no longer matter. That is how you become untouchable. That is how you rise. That is how you make the woman who hurt you feel smaller than the silence she now gets in return. And that is how you make the woman who hurt you feel smaller than the silence she now gets in return. And if this truth speaks to you, then you're ready for the next step. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men is not just a book. It's the manual. Every man should have been handed before his first heartbreak. It's packed with timeless principles that will immediately shift how you see yourself, your relationships, and your worth. And for the first time ever, it's now available as an audiobook, so you can take it with you while walking, training, jogging, feeding your mind while strengthening your body. Ask yourself, how many more sleepless nights will you give to someone who doesn't deserve you? How many more times will you explain yourself to people who never understood you? This book is the answer you've been waiting for. Raw, clear, powerful. Once you get it, it's yours for life. No subscription, just permanent access to knowledge that will rebuild your foundation as a man. Tap the link in the comments, start listening today, and never give your power away again. Number 2. Disappear with no closure. She expects you to chase. She expects you to cry. She expects you to come back explaining, justifying, clarifying what happened between you two, because she's conditioned by a world that taught her she can break a man emotionally and still receive his attention afterward, like nothing ever happened, like disrespect was just another phase in the relationship. But what she doesn't expect is your total disappearance, not temporary silence, not a cool-down period, but a full blackout of your presence, your energy, your availability, your attention, your validation. And that's when she starts to feel the weight of her decisions, because until you vanish with no closure, she still believes she has control over how the story ends. And if she controls the ending, she controls the narrative. And if she controls the narrative, she controls your worth. And that's exactly why you take that power back by refusing to explain, refusing to fight, refusing to give her the one thing she needs to validate her actions, your reaction. Most men don't do this. Most men collapse under the emotional weight and reach out after a few days, even if they were the ones betrayed, disrespected, insulted, discarded. They still send that one last text. They still make that one last call. They still try to understand why she changed, why she stopped caring, why she chose to leave. And every time they do it, they hand her the satisfaction of seeing her damage in action, of knowing she still lives rent-free in his emotional system. But imagine a scenario where she mistreats you, disrespects your loyalty, pushes your boundaries, then expects drama or emotion, and what she gets instead is silence so deep it robs her of the ability to sleep at night. Silence so cold it freezes her ego in place. Silence that leaves her wondering whether you ever cared. That's when she truly begins to feel small. Because while she was preparing for war, you disappeared like she never mattered, like she never existed. And now she's left performing for an audience that's no longer watching. That's the move. That's the checkmate. That's how you don't just win, you remove yourself from the board completely and force her to play against her own reflection. And I know some of you are thinking, but what if she's the only one I've ever loved? What if I just want to understand? Let me speak directly to your pain. She knows you loved her. She knows you gave everything, and she still did what she did. And now you want to hand her the final word in a story she already closed on her terms. You want to give her the ending too. No, you disappear. You let her imagination torture her. You let her friends ask, what happened to him? You let her replay your last interaction in her mind without the satisfaction of knowing where you went or what you feel. She wants closure, not because she cares, but because she wants to remove her guilt. And when you disappear without giving her that emotional safety net, she has to sit with what she did in the silence you created. She has to process her cruelty without comfort. She has to understand that her behavior has real-world consequences, that she doesn't get to play emotional games and still keep you in her rotation of maybes for when things go wrong with someone else. You disappearing with no closure is the boldest form of self-respect because it tells her, I won't stay where I'm disrespected. I won't argue to be treated like a human. I won't audition for love that should have already been given. And this doesn't mean you vanish with bitterness. No, you vanish with calm, with control, with certainty that you are no longer seeking answers from someone who already showed you who they are. You don't slam the door. You don't post revenge stories. You don't try to hurt her back. You just vanish. And that vanishing echoes. She may not admit it publicly, but she feels it when you stop checking her stories, when you stop liking her pictures, when you no longer exist in her emotional economy. That's when the silence grows teeth. That's when it bites. That's when she realizes you weren't weak, you were wise. You chose the high ground not because you couldn't fight, but because the battle was beneath you. And now you're somewhere improving, evolving, glowing differently. And she's stuck with the memory of a man who didn't beg, who didn't react, who didn't collapse. That man becomes a ghost she can't exorcise, a shadow that lingers in the corner of her mind when every new guy she meets lacks that same calm intensity. And for you, this isn't just a tactic. This is your transformation. While she expects you to linger in sadness, you use this silence to build. You use this space to recover your vision, your goals, your sense of identity, your principles, your path. This is where you discover yourself again, not as a broken man, but as a sharpened one. And every time you feel the urge to break no contact, to reach out, to get closure, remind yourself, you don't need closure from chaos. You need discipline for your destiny. You don't need one more conversation. You need momentum. Because the truth is, most men don't disappear because they're still hoping she'll come back. They're still secretly needing her to acknowledge the damage. But once you stop needing that apology, that explanation, that last conversation, you set yourself free from the emotional cage she tried to keep you in. You become unreachable. And when you become unreachable, you become unforgettable. Because the men who walk away quietly, without drama, without tears, without pleading, become legends in her memory. Not because they tried to hurt her, but because they chose themselves. And in this world, where men are taught to break down, to chase, to explain their pain, to cry for acceptance, the man who disappears becomes sacred, rare, dangerous. You disappear not out of spite, but out of wisdom. You disappear because your peace is too expensive to negotiate. You disappear because closure is just a trap to reopen wounds you're trying to heal. And so you vanish, not as a ghost, but as a man who's too alive to remain in dead places. You disappear with purpose, with direction, with new goals written down, broken into daily habits, with your time guarded like gold. your energy given only to those who earn it. And as weeks turn into months, as your silence deepens into success, as your mind clears, you won't even need to wonder what she's thinking, because by then, you've moved so far beyond her that her thoughts no longer matter. And that is how you turn pain into progress. That is how you disappear with no closure and never look back. That is how you reclaim your power. And that is how you make the one who hurt you feel smaller than the man she thought she broke. Number 3. Show no reaction. She expects you to explode, to lose control, to yell, to chase, to beg for answers, to break down and fall apart, because that's how she confirms she still matters, that she still owns space inside your chest, that her betrayal has weight. And if you react, if you scream or cry or attack or plead, if you vent online or show her you're in emotional pieces, all you've done is reward her cruelty with confirmation that she succeeded, that she could break you, that she had the power all along. And this is exactly where most men fall, because they don't realize that showing emotion to someone who has already disrespected you is handing your weapon to your enemy and begging her not to use it again. She doesn't need you to love her again. She needs you to still be affected, and if you want to destroy that grip, you must starve her of the fuel she feeds on, which is your emotional energy, and that means giving her nothing, no matter how much she tries to provoke it, bait it, dig it out of you. Imagine she cheats and you find out. Your whole body wants to shake, your voice wants to rise, your hands tremble, your pride collapses. But instead of giving her the performance she anticipates, you say nothing. You leave her words hanging in the air like smoke. You don't ask why, because you already understand she made a decision, not a mistake. You don't interrogate or accuse or demand apologies. You nod. You leave. She watches a man who cannot be pulled down by her chaos, and that haunts her. She wanted drama. She got detachment. She wanted reaction. She got refusal. And that silence isn't passive. It's dominance. Because when a man refuses to be emotionally manipulated, when he refuses to validate disrespect with engagement, he becomes terrifying in the most beautiful way. And that's what happens when you show no reaction. You tell her without words that she never had the power she thought she did. You trigger her insecurity, not through insults, but through the calm control she cannot shake. The moment she realizes her betrayal didn't bend you, she starts doubting her own value. And this is the most uncomfortable truth. When you show no reaction, she begins to turn inward, not out of guilt, but confusion, because in her world, attention is currency, and your silence makes her bankrupt. She questions why you're so calm, why you're not fighting, why you didn't break, and in that confusion, your value rises. Not to win her back, but to reclaim yourself. And I know it's not easy. Every part of you wants to scream, wants to demand accountability, wants her to feel what she did to you. But the more you try to make her feel it, the more you reveal that she succeeded. That's the trap. That's the illusion. And that's why you don't even flinch. You become unshakable, not by pretending, but by mastering your mind, choosing to place your emotional energy in places that grow you, not drain you. And this is where stoic strength lives, not in dead silence, but in intentional detachment. You choose not to react, not because you don't feel pain, but because you refuse to let that pain become her entertainment. You're not a show. You're not a breakdown. You're not a performance she gets to watch after destroying what you built. You are the calm after the destruction. And when she calls you names to provoke you, when she throws accusations to bait you, when she posts subtle digs to test you, you don't respond. You don't justify. You don't explain. You let her talk to the wind, because nothing disturbs a person more than being ignored after doing their worst. And if you slip, if you send one text out of weakness, if you try to explain just once, understand it's not the end, but a lesson. Every emotional reaction you hand over is a withdrawal from your dignity. And you rebuild that by cutting access to your reactions. She needs access to your emotion to keep the power dynamic alive. And when you block that, you flip the game. You become unpredictable. You become sovereign. And she spirals, not because you said something hurtful, but because you said nothing at all. That nothingness echoes in her mind longer than your anger ever would. So stop thinking silence is weak. Stop thinking calm is surrender. The most powerful men in the world never raise their voices. They raise their standards. You don't punish her with rage. You punish her with elevation. And as she tries to poke holes in your peace, you keep building. You keep winning. You keep living. That is how you make her feel smaller than the drama she tried to bring into your life. Not by matching her chaos, but by refusing to recognize it. And every time she sees you glow, every time she hears you're doing better, every time she sees you unbothered, she remembers that the man she thought she broke is now too far above her to even respond. That's not revenge. That's restoration. And when you show no reaction, that's when you become untouchable. Number 4, focus on building ruthlessly. She tried to damage you, tried to watch you fall apart, hoping you'd spiral into emotional collapse, hoping you'd stop showing up for yourself, hoping you'd waste months scrolling her page, drinking your pain, dragging your broken heart into every conversation while she moved on without a scratch. But what she didn't anticipate was that you'd use her betrayal as fuel, that her cruelty would become your trigger for transformation, that her rejection would become your resurrection. Because when a man truly wakes up from the illusion that a woman's approval defines his worth, when he sees through the emotional games, the passive-aggressive disrespect, the false intimacy used as leverage, he doesn't crawl into pity. He explodes into purpose. And that's what building ruthlessly means. Not moving on in silence hoping she'll notice, not fake glowing online while still secretly needing her attention, but shifting your entire life's direction so deeply that your old self wouldn't recognize the man you've become, because she thought she ended something, but really she triggered a version of you so focused, so calculated, so intentional, that her memory gets buried under your new legacy. And I'm not talking about surface-level improvement. This isn't about getting a haircut and hitting the gym for a few weeks, hoping she sees your progress. This is about restructuring your existence from the inside out, from your habits, your income, your vision, your body, your skills, your connections, your schedule, your circle, every corner of your life becoming sharpened like a weapon, because you're no longer building to impress her, you're building to never need another woman's validation again. And that shift is dangerous because once you stop seeking revenge and start seeking excellence, once you stop wondering if she's watching and start watching your own evolution, once you stop living for reactions and start living for results, you become unstoppable. And it starts with honesty. Ask yourself, what areas of my life have I neglected while chasing her approval? What goals did I abandon when I was prioritizing her moods, her texts, her emotions? What potential did I bury trying to keep someone who didn't even respect me? And then make a vow to rebuild without distraction. Rebuilding ruthlessly means waking up early not for motivation, but for mission. It means training your body like your survival depends on it, not for aesthetics, but for discipline. It means reading to expand your weaponry, not to look smart. It means cutting off every single person who drains you, even if it's painful. It means rejecting every excuse that whispers rest when you know it's time to push. And yes, there will be days where the pain resurfaces, where her face shows up in your mind, where the memories pull you back. But that's when the building matters most. That's when you turn heartbreak into hammer strikes. Every workout is a punch to your old self. Every business decision is a step out of her shadow. Every minute of focus is a declaration. I will never be that version of me again. You become so committed to growth that no distraction can touch you. You build without needing applause. You build in private. You build in silence. You create routines so powerful that your future self begins to look inevitable, and the people around you will start to notice. Your energy shifts. Your standards rise. Your presence demands respect. They'll say you've changed, because you have. You're no longer available for manipulation, for indecision, for low-effort relationships. You're not bitter, you're better. Because this isn't just about bouncing back. This is about leveling up to a place where the old version of you, the one who begged, chased, explained, tolerated, gets buried for good. She doesn't recognize you anymore, not because you're hiding, but because you've outgrown every version of yourself that made her feel comfortable. You've become the man she can no longer reach, not because you blocked her, but because she's no longer qualified to access the man you've become. And here's the hard truth. The best revenge isn't replacing her. It's replacing the version of you that settled for her. It's becoming so valuable, so rare, so disciplined, that even if she came back, you wouldn't have the time to respond, not because of ego, but because your schedule is too filled with building, with working, with training, with mastering your craft, with building generational value that no woman could take away. You don't rise just to look good. You rise to become undeniable. You rise because pain is your permission. You rise because you're not dying in heartbreak, you're being born through it. So choose to rebuild with obsession, set your alarm, write your goals. Schedule your days, track your habits, build something so powerful that your past becomes irrelevant. Let your success humiliate her decision, not because you want to shame her, but because you never needed revenge, you needed redemption. And you gave it to yourself. You chose self-respect, you chose growth, you chose discipline. That's what it means to focus on building ruthlessly. That's what it means to win. Number 5, treat her like a stranger. You don't treat her like a stranger because you're trying to be cold, or to get even, or to pretend like you're unaffected. You treat her like a stranger because once she made the decision to hurt you, to betray your trust, to abandon your loyalty, to disrespect your presence while benefiting from your love, she made herself unfamiliar to the man you are becoming. And now, any connection you once had with her belongs to a version of you that no longer exists. And the man you are today no longer sees her through the lens of memory, but through the lens of truth. And the truth is, she no longer fits into your future, your peace, your growth, your world, because she already showed you what you meant to her when she had full access to your loyalty, and she chose to misuse it. And most men fail here because they continue entertaining familiarity with women who've already made it clear they no longer respect them. They keep returning to conversations that reopen wounds. They stay connected on social media, watching her fake smiles while they rot in overthinking. They answer calls out of guilt. They reply to texts out of habit. They keep the door open just in case. And that door becomes the reason they can't move forward. But when you treat her like a stranger, when you remove emotional access, when you reprogram your mind to view her as someone who used to exist in your story, but is now just another lesson, you free yourself from the emotional cycle of false hope, of delayed healing, of reopening what you were trying to close. And this isn't done with bitterness. This is done with clarity. It's not about ignoring her to punish her. It's about recognizing that continuing to engage with her is punishing yourself. She's no longer special. She's no longer your what if. She's just another name, another face, another reminder that you once lowered your standards to feel loved by someone who didn't even understand what love required. So you stop talking about her. You stop reliving the story. You stop defending her actions to your friends. You stop holding on to, but she had good moments too, because even poison can come in sweet packaging. That doesn't make it less deadly. You stop posting quotes that secretly signal her. You stop scrolling through old pictures pretending you're just reminiscing. You stop attaching meaning to memories that are already disconnected from reality. And you begin to act in alignment with a man who truly understands that any woman who could hurt him the way she did has no place in the kingdom he's building. That's the energy. That's the focus. You greet her with calm if you ever cross paths, not because you're weak, but because you've mastered yourself to the point where her presence no longer disrupts your atmosphere. You don't avoid her. You just don't acknowledge her more than you would a stranger on the street. She's no longer someone you react to. She's someone you pass by, emotionally neutral, spiritually untouched. And yes, it's going to hurt at first. The old version of you will want to say something, will want to reignite the connection, will want to test if she still cares. But you have to remind yourself, every interaction with her now is a step backwards. Every message you answer, every story you watch, every memory you indulge is a betrayal of your healing. And the man who truly values himself doesn't sacrifice his future for a past that already failed him. So you take back your energy, you take back your time, you take back your peace, you reclaim your identity, you become unavailable. Not because you're hiding, but because you're elevating. Not because you're afraid of her, but because you're done playing the game. And something shifts when you treat her like a stranger. You stop wondering if she's moved on. You stop checking if she's happy. You stop caring about what she thinks, because the man you're becoming no longer needs her validation. You've replaced that need with self-respect, and that self-respect becomes your shield. It protects you from falling back into emotional traps disguised as second chances. It protects you from being lured back into conversations that always lead to the same disappointment. It protects you from wasting your time with someone who's already proven they're incapable of honoring it. And in time, she'll feel it. She'll feel the shift. She'll notice that the man who once responded to every message, who once fought for her attention, who once tried to understand her chaos, now treats her like an irrelevant chapter in a story that ended the day she chose herself over loyalty. And that treatment, that calm, distant, unaffected treatment, breaks her ego more than any insult ever could. Because now she's not even the villain in your life. She's just nothing. She's background noise. She's static. She's silence. And that silence isn't empty. It's full of everything she lost when she chose to play with you. She lost your attention. She lost your effort. She lost your potential. And most importantly, she lost access to a version of you that only existed for someone who knew how to handle it. Now, that version is gone, and the man that stands in his place is sharper, wiser, stronger, not because of her, but in spite of her. That's what happens when you treat her like a stranger. You disconnect her from your identity. You remove her from your purpose. You erase her from your plans. You build forward without ever looking back. And every time you're tempted to check in, to ask how she's doing, to see if she misses you, remind yourself, strangers don't get that kind of access. And she is, without a doubt, a stranger now. If you're done being used, discarded, misunderstood, and betrayed, if you're tired of giving your best to women who treat your loyalty like weakness, then it's time to rewrite your life from the inside out. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men is your weapon, a raw, unapologetic guide built for men who are ready to break the cycle and lead with power, not pain. It's filled with timeless Stoic principles that will transform your mindset, emotions, and standards immediately. And now, it's even easier to absorb. The audiobook version is available so you can listen while walking, grinding, training, letting every word sharpen your soul. No sugarcoating, just the truth you were never taught. This knowledge is yours forever once you grab it. No more questions, no more confusion, no more weakness. Tap the link in the comments, like this video, subscribe to help more men escape years of silent suffering, and comment, "I choose power" below if you're ready to claim the life and respect you've always deserved.